Hello, we get to start our next unit. So if you have not already done so, please take the time right now, pause this video, download chapter 8. It's going to be necessary. Your first homework assignment is going to come straight from the book. So make sure you have chapter 8 in your textbook, download it. All right, so what we're going to get to start working on now is how to solve quadratics. So our first look is to try to figure out what is this thing called a quadratic. And all a quadratic is if you have something that looks like this. Okay, well, as I wrote this, you should have noticed that this part looks quite familiar. It's just simply a polynomial, and a standard polynomial that we were looking at in our last unit before spring break that you know how to factor, you know how to find a greatest common denominator and pull it out, or not denominator, but greatest common factor and pull it out. You know how to do a lot of things with polynomials that look like this. So a quadratic equation is just now one where we take this format and set it equal to 0. And so today we're going to look at some very simple ones, and we're going to use square roots to solve for them. So if you remember that if I tell you something is squared, that just means that that times itself 2 times, right? But so that could be x squared equals x times x, or maybe 3 squared equals 3 times 3, right? Something times itself 2 times. We talked last unit about square roots. Remember, those are the things that look like this. And if there's no number outside it, we assume that it's a 2. You won't see that written very often, you just assume it. So a square root is asking you what times itself will give you the number that's inside the square root. So something like the square root of 9, you know that 3 times 3 equals 9. Therefore, the square root of 9 is 3. Maybe it's the square root of 25. Well, you know that 5 times 5 equals 25. Therefore, the square root of 25 is 5. Well, what if it was something like the square root of x squared? That's a little different, but not really. X squared is simply x times x. So the square root of that then would simply just be x. So what I'm trying to get you to see is just like addition undoes subtraction, it's the opposite function, and multiplication is the opposite function of division, square root is the opposite function of squaring, if that makes sense. Hopefully by the end of this, you'll have seen enough examples that it'll start making sense. Okay, well, what if we did something a little more complicated? How about something like x to the 4th? Well, we know that x to the 4th is simply x times x times x times x, right? So therefore, when you're looking for the square root, you're looking for things that are multiplied by themselves in pairs, right? So if you look at this, we've got x times x here. That would be something that could get pulled out. We also then have another set of x times x right next to it. So that means the square root of x to the 4th is x because we took this x out, times x, or simply x squared. Okay, so I want you to be able to refer back to this if you're having difficulty trying to figure out how to solve square roots. Okay, so in my next video, we're going to put this into practice. I'll see you in a few moments.